Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Ajnanaतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानञ्जना शलाकया चक्षुरुन्मीलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपः कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकम् वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरो श्रीयुतपदकमलं श्रीगुरून् वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सागररघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधाकृष्णपादान् सहगणललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च हे कृष्ण करुणा सिन्धो दीनबन्धो जगत्पते कुपेश गोपिका कान्ता राधाकान्त नमोऽस्तु ते तप्त काञ्चन गौराङ्गी राधे वृन्दावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानं पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः नमो विष्णुपदाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्तस्वामिनिति नामिने नमस्ते सरस्वते देवे गौरवाणि प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासरि गौरभक्तवृंद हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरयेत् शृण्वतां स्वाकता कृष्ण पुण्यश्रवणकीर्तना हृद्यन्तः स्तोयभद्राणि विदुनुति सुहृत्सतां नष्टप्रायस्व भद्रेषु नित्यं भागवतसेवया भागवति उत्तमश्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्टिकी. Before reciting the Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, which is the very means of conquest, one should offer respectful obeisances unto the personality of Godhead Narayana, unto Narayana Rishi, the supermost human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and unto Srila Vyasadeva, the author. Sri Krishna, the personality of Godhead, who is the Paramatma, super soul in everyone's heart and the benefactor of the truthful devotee, cleanses desire for material enjoyment from the heart of the devotee who has developed the urge to hear his messages, which are in themselves virtuous when properly heard and chanted. By regular attendance in classes on the Bhagavatam, and by rendering of service to the pure devotee, all that is troublesome to the heart is almost completely destroyed, and loving service unto the personality of Godhead, who is praised with transcendental songs, is established as an irrevocable fact. Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam ki jai, Śrīla Prabhupada ki jai. Canto 2, Chapter 10, Text number 24. हस्तौरुरुहतुस्तस्य नानाकर्मचिकीर्षया तायस्तु बलवानिन्द्रा आदानमुपयाश्रयम्. Hastau, the hands, Ruruhatu manifested, Tasya his, Nana various, Karma work, Chikirshaya, being so desirous, Tayo of them too, however, Balavan to give strength, Indra the demigod in heaven, Adanam activities of the hand, Ubaya Srayam dependent on both the demigod and the hand. Translation. Thereafter, when the Supreme Person desired to perform varieties of work, the two hands and their controlling strength and Indra, and the demigod in heaven, became manifested, as also the acts depend on both hands and demigods, as also the acts dependent on both the hands and the demigods. Hmm. Purport. In every item, we can note with profit that the sense organs of the living entity are never independent in any stage. The Lord is known as the Lord of the senses, Rishikesha, and thus the sense organs of the living entity become manifest by the will of the Lord. And each organ is controlled by a certain type of demigod. No one therefore can claim any proprietorship of the senses. The living entity is controlled by the senses. The senses are controlled by the demigods, and the demigods are the servants of the Supreme Lord. That is the arrangement in the system of creation. The whole thing is controlled ultimately by the Supreme Lord, and there is no independence either of the material nature or of the living entity. The illusion living entity who claims to be the Lord of the senses is under the clutches of the external energy of the Lord, and as long as living entity continues to be puffed up by his tiny existence, he is to be understood to be under the stringent control of the external energy of the Lord, and there is no question of liberation from the clutches of illusion, Maya, however much one may declare himself a liberated soul. Hmm. Text number 25. गतिं जिगीषतः पादौ रुरुहाते बिः कामिकां पद्भ्यं यज्ञस्वयं हव्यं कर्मभिः क्रियते नृभिः. Gati movement, jikisata, so desiring, padau, the legs, ruruhate, being manifested, abhikamikam, purposeful, Padbyam from the legs. Yagna, a certain demigod of the name Vishnu. Swayam personally, himself. Avyam the duties. Karma be by one's occupational duty. Kriyate caused to be done. Nribi by different human beings. Translation. Thereupon, by so desiring to control movement, his legs became manifested, and from the legs the controlling deity named Vishnu generated. Thereupon, by so desiring to control movement, his legs became manifested, and from the legs the controlling deity named Vishnu generated. By his personal supervision of this act, all varieties of human being are busily engaged in dutiful occupational sacrifice. Purport. Every human being is engaged in his particular occupational duty, and such activities are visible as men go hither and thither. This is very prominently visible in big cities of the world. People are going all over the cities with great concern from one place to another. This movement is not only limited within the cities, but also visible outside the cities from one place to another, or from one city to another, by different means of vehicles. They are moving by cars and rails on the road, by subways within the earth, and by planes in the sky for the purpose of business success. But in all these movements, the real purpose is to earn wealth for a comfortable life, and for this comfortable life, the scientist is engaged, the artist is engaged, the engineer is engaged, the technician is engaged, all in different branches of human activity. But they do not know how to make the activities purposeful to fulfill the mission of human life. Without knowing this secret, all their activities are targeted towards the goal of sense gratification without any control. Therefore, by all this business, they are unknowingly entering into the deep regions of darkness. Because they have been captivated by the external energy of the Supreme Lord, they have completely forgotten the Supreme Lord Vishnu, and thus they have taken it for granted that this life as presently manifested under the conditions of material nature is all in all for enjoying the highest amount of sense gratification. But such wrong conception of life cannot give anyone the desired peace of mind. And thus, in spite of all advancement of knowledge by using the resources of nature, no one is happy in this material civilization. The secret is that in every step they should try to execute sacrifices toward the path of world peace. The Bhagavad Gita also advises the same secret in the following verses. Oh, is this two verse? Sve sve karmanyapirata samsiddhim labate nara svakarmani ratah siddhim yatha vindati tachrunu yatah pravritti bhutanam yena sarvamidam tatam sasvakarmana tam apyajya siddhim vindati manava. The Lord said to Arjuna, Just hear from me how one can attain the highest perfection in life simply by discharging his specified occupational duty. Man can attain the highest perfection of life by worshipping the Supreme Lord and by performing sacrifice for the sake of the Supreme Lord Vishnu, who is all-pervading and by whose control every living being acquires his desired facilities according to his personal propensity. There is no harm in having different propensities in life because every human being is proportionately independent to chalk out the plan of his life by different occupations. But he should make it a point in his life to know perfectly well that he is not independent absolutely. He is certainly under the control of the Supreme Lord and under different agencies, and knowing this he should make it a point that by this work and the result of his labor he serves the Supreme Lord as it is prescribed by the authorities expert in the transcendental loving service of the Supreme Lord Vishnu. And for performing such occupational duties of life, the leg is the most important instrument of the body, because without the help of the legs no one can move from one place to another. And therefore the Lord has special control over the legs of all human beings, which are meant for performing yagnas. Haribol, who wants to read? Rishikesh Prabhu, maybe you want to read? Or Pranjal Prabhu? Today we don't have yet many.
Yes, Prabhu, I can read.
Thank you, Prabhu. Haribol.
निर्भिद्यता शिष्णो वै प्रजानान् उदामृतार्थिना उपस्थ असित् कामानां प्रियां तद् उपय आश्रयम्. Synonyms: Nirbadyata came out, Shishna, the genitals; Vai, certainly; Praja Ananda, sex pleasure; Amrita Arthina, aspiring to taste the nectar; Upastha, the male or female organ; Asit, came into existence; Kamanam, of the lustful; Priyam, very dear; that; Ubhaya Ashrayam, shelter for both. Translation purport by Stone Recessive Octane Social Prabhupada Ki Jai. Thereupon, for sex pleasure, begetting offspring, and tasting heavenly nectar, the Lord developed the genitals. And thus there is the genital organ and its controlling deity, the Prajapati. The object of sex pleasure and the controlling deity are under the control of the genitals of the Lord. Purport: the heavenly pleasure for the conditioned soul is sex pleasure, and this pleasure is tasted by the genitals. The woman is the object of sex pleasure, and both the sense perception of sex pleasure and that woman are controlled by the Prajapati, who is under the control of the Lord's genitals. The impersonalist must know from this verse that the Lord is not impersonal because he has his genitals on which all the pleasurable objects of sex depend. No one would have taken trouble to maintain children if there were no taste for the heavenly nectar by means of sexual intercourse. This material world is created to give chance to the conditioned souls for rejuvenation, for going back home, back to Godhead, and therefore generation of the living being is necessary for upkeep of the purpose of creation. The sex pleasure is an impetus for such action, and as such, one can even serve the Lord in the act of such sex pleasure. The service is counted when the children born out of such sex pleasure are properly trained in God consciousness. The whole idea of material creation is to revive the dormant God consciousness of the living entity. In other forms of life, besides the human form, the sex pleasure is prominent only without any motive of service for the mission of the Lord. But in the human form of life, the conditioned soul can render service to the Lord by creating progeny suitable for the attainment of salvation. One can beget hundreds of children and enjoy the celestial pleasure of sexual intercourse, provided he is able to train up the children in God consciousness. Otherwise, begetting children is on the level of the swine. Rather, the swine is more expert than the human being because the swine can beget a dozen piglets at a time where the human being can give birth to one only at a time. So one should always remember that genitals, the sex pleasure, the woman and the offspring are all related in the service of the Lord. And one who forgets this relationship in the service of the Supreme Lord becomes subjected to the threefold miseries of the material existence by the laws of nature. Perception of sex pleasure is there even in the body of a dog, but there is no sense of God consciousness. The human form of life is distinct from that of a dog by perception of God consciousness. Text 27. उत्सिर्षोर् धातुमालं निर्भिद्यता वै गुदं ततः पायुस्ततो मित्र उत्सर्ग उभयाश्रय synonyms उत्सिर्षो desiring to evacuate Dhatumalam refused to eatables. Nirbhatyata became upon Vai certainly Gudam the evacuating hole Tata thereafter Payu the evacuating sense organ Tata thereafter Mitra the controlling demigod Utsarga the substance evacuated Ubhaya both Ashraya shelter. Translation. Thereafter, desiring to evacuate the refuse of eatables, the evacuating whole anus and the sensory organ thereof developed along with the controlling deity Mitra. The sensory organ and the evacuating substance are both under the shelter of the controlling deity. Purport. Even in the matter of evacuating stool, the refuse is controlled, so how can the living entity claim to be independent? Text 28. Prabhu, you can go down.
Yes, Prabhu.
आशीर्षो पुरया नाभिद्वारम् अपन्नातः तत्रापन्नस्ततो मृत्युः पृथक्त्वम् उभयाश्रयम् आशीर्षो desiring to go everywhere pura in different bodies purya from one body navidwaram the navel of or abdominal hole apan apanatha was manifested tatra thereupon upon her stopping of the vital force tata thereafter mrityu death prithaktvam separately ubhaya both ashrayam shelter. Translation. Thereafter desiring to move from one body to another, the navel and the air of departure and the death were combinedly created. The navel is the shelter for both, namely death and the separating force. Purport. The pranavayu continues the life and the apanavayu stops the living force, and both the vibrations are generated from the abdominal whole navel. This navel is the joint from one body to the other. Lord Brahma was born out of the abdominal hole of Garbhodakshai Vishnu as a separate body, and the same principle is followed even in the birth of an ordinary body. The body of the child develops from the body of the mother, and when the child is separated from the body of the mother, it is separated by cutting the navel joint. And that is the way the Supreme Lord manifested himself as separated many. The living entities are therefore separated parts, and thus they have no independence. Next 29. Aichoranapānam asapuksha nadaya nadyah samudrascha tayos tushti pushti ashraya adisho desiring to have annapana of food and drink asana there became kukshi abdomen and third intestines nadaya and the artery Nadaya, these rivers, Samudra, seas, Cha also Taya of them, Tushti, sustenance, Pushti, metabolism, Tat of them, Ashraya, the source. Translation: when there was desire to have food and drink, the abdomen and the intestines and also the arteries became manifested. The rivers and the seas are the source for their sustenance and metabolism. Purport: the controlling deities of the intestines are rivers, and those of arteries the seas. Fulfillment of the belly with food and drink is the cause of sustenance, and the metabolism of the body and drink metabolism of the food and drink replaces the waste of the body, the energies. Therefore, the body's health is dependent on healthy actions of the intestine and the arteries. The rivers and the seas, being controlling deities of the two, keep the intestines and the arteries in healthy order. So, Prabhu, here, who is the deity, controlling deity? It is not written, the name.
Yes, Prabhu, here the deity is not mentioned. There is many, I think.
Yes,
Because see here
Prabhu,
is said many. The controlling deities of the intestines are rivers. There is
yes,
different rivers. There is many different rivers. So this some way they control.
yes, Prabhu. Ni- निदिध्य यशोरात्ममायं हृदयं निर्बध्यता ततो मानश्चन्द्र इति सङ्कल्पः काम एव च निदिध्ययोश् being desirous to know Atmamayam own energy, Hrityam, the location of the mind, Nirbhityata was manifested tata thereafter, Mana, the mind, Chandra, the controlling deity of the mind, the moon, Iti, the Sankalpa, determination, Kama, desire, Eva, as much as Cha also. Translation: when there was a desire to think about the activities of his own energy, then the heart, the seat of the mind, and the moon, the determination and all desire became manifested. Output: the heart of the living entity is the seat of the Supreme Supersoul, Paramatma, a plenary expansion of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Without his presence, the living entity cannot get into the working energy according to his past states. The living entities who are conditioned in the material world are manifested in the creation in terms of respective inclinations inherent in them, and the requisite material body is offered to each and every one of them by the material energy under the direction of the Supersoul. This is explained in the Bhagavad Gita 9:10. When therefore the Supersoul is situated in the heart of the conditioned soul, the requisite mind is manifested in the conditioned soul, and he becomes conscious of his occupation as one is conscious of his duty after waking up from slumber. Therefore, the material mind of the living entity develops, and the Supersoul sits in his heart, after which the mind, the controlling deity moon, and then the activities of the mind, namely thinking, feeling, and willing, all take place. The activities of the mind cannot begin without the manifestation of the heart, and the heart becomes manifested when the Lord wants to see the activities of the material creation. So, Prabhuji, here, if there is soul in the body, and there is, Paramatma is not sitting there, then also this soul cannot move, right? The body cannot be moved with soul.
Yes, Prabhu, it's actually the super soul that moves the body. We can only desire something and then the activity happens.
Okay.
Yes, Prabhu.
Bhaktarma. मांसारुधिरा मेधो माजस्ति धातवा भूम्यप्य तेजोमय सत्ता प्राणो व्योमाम्बु त्वक् the thin layer of the skin, mamsa, flesh, ruthira, blood, meda, fat, majja, marrow, asthi, bone, dhatava, elements, bhumi, earth, up, water, teja, fire, maya, predominating, sapta, seventh, prana, breathing, air, vyom, sky, water, vayubi, by the air. Translation: the seven elements of the body, namely this thin layer of the skin, the flesh, the blood, fat, the marrow, and the bone, are all made of earth, water and fire, whereas the life breathing air is produced by the sky, water, and air. Purport: construction of the whole material world is prominently made by three elements, namely earth, water, and fire. But the living force is produced by sky, air, and water. So water is the common element both in the gross and the subtle forms of all material creation, and it should be noted herewith that due to necessity, water being most prominent in the material creation is the principal element of all the five. This material body is thus an embodiment of the five elements, and the gross manifestation is perceived because of the three, namely earth, water, and fire. Sensation of touch is perceived due to the thin layer on the skin, and bone is as good as hard stone. Since the breathing air of life is produced of sky and air and water, open air, regular bath, and ample space to live are in favorable for healthy vitality. Fresh produce of the earth like grains and vegetables, fresh water, and heat are good for the keep up of the gross body. Thank you, Prabhuji. If someone wants to continue.
Thank you so much, Prabhu. Hare Krishna, Prabhu Standard Pranam Jai Shri Prabhupada. Thank you for joining.
Hare Krishna, everyone. Dandot Pranam, Jai Shri Prabhupada. I can continue.
Hare
Yes,
Krishna
Prabhu.
Prabhuji's. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Dandavat Pranam.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu, Dandavat Pranam. All glories to Prabhupada.
Yeah, Dheeraj Prabhu, you can continue. Later I can
Yes.
take it up from you.
Yes. Okay. Text 32. Is it?
Yes, Prabhu, 1 second. Regular bath and ample space of living are favorable to healthy vitality. Because we were just talking about these things. What is ample?
Ample means sufficient.
Fresh produce of the earth like grains, vegetables, fresh water, and heat are good for the upkeep of the gross body. So the processed things are not good. Oh, and is here thin layer, skin, flesh, blood. But here is one is missing. One is missing. Who knows which one is it?
Layer of skin, flesh.
Oh.
The skin, flesh, blood.
Yeah, because there is, in some purport or translation, there is explained all the transformation of food to all its transformation in the body. You remember those? It goes from food, it was plasma or something, then it turns into like blood, then it turns into bone or
I
bone
think the
marrow.
last is semen.
Yes, Prabhu. But I think this is some different thing because it's some are missing here also. Okay, let's go on to next one.
Text 32. गुणात्मकानीन्द्रियाणि भूतादि प्रभवा गुणा मनः सर्वविकारात्मा बुद्धिर्विज्ञानरूपिणे. Synonyms: Guna atmakani, attached to the qualities; indriyani, senses; bhutadi, material ego; prabhava, influenced by; guna, modes of material nature; Mana, the mind, sarva, all, vikara, affection, happiness and distress, atma, form, buddhi, intelligence, vijnana, deliberation, rupini, featuring. Translation: the sense organs are attached to the modes of material nature, and the modes of material nature are products of the false ego. Mind is subjected to all kinds of material experiences, happiness and distress, and the intelligence is the feature of mind's deliberation. Okay. Purport: illusioned by the material nature, the living entity identifies with false ego. More clearly, when the living entity is entrapped by material body, he at once identifies with the bodily relationships, forgetting his own identity as spirit soul. This false ego associates with different modes of material nature, and thus the senses become attached to the modes of material nature. Mind is the instrument for feeling different material experiences, but intelligence is deliberative and can change everything for the better. The intelligent person, therefore, can attain salvation from the illusion of material existence by proper use of intelligence. An intelligent person can detect the awkward position of material existence and thus begin to inquire as to what he is, why he is subjected to different kinds of miseries, how to get rid of all miseries, and thus by good association and an advanced intelligent person can turn towards the better life of self-realization. It is advised, therefore, that an intelligent person associate with great sages and saints who are on the path of salvation. By such association, one can receive instructions which are able to slacken the conditioned soul's attachment for matter, and thus gradually the intelligent man gets rid of the illusion of matter and false ego and is promoted to the real life of eternity, knowledge and blissfulness. Text 33. एतद् भगवतो रूपं स्थूलं ते व्यावृतं मया मय आदिभिश्चावर्णैर् अष्टभिर्बहिरावृतम्. Synonyms: etad, all this, bhagavata, of the personality of Godhead, rupam, form, sthulam, gross, te, onto you, vyahritam, explained, maya, by me, mahi, the planets, adhivi, te, et ite, itera, cha, unlimitedly, avar, avarnai, by coverings, ashtabhi, by eight, bahi, external, avritam, covered. Translation: thus, by this, the external feature of the personality of Godhead is covered by gross forms of planets, etc. What is that? Can you translate? ETCETERA, which were explained by you, which were explained to you by me.
Oh, yes, Prabhu. This is like.
That is it, etc.
Etc.
Yeah.
Oh, etc.
The full
In
form
India,
of
we
the
just
full yeah etc. The
okay,
full form of
EX.
etc is this entire group of words.
Oh, okay. Yep. In India, we just write ETC and dot.
No, everywhere it is written as etc. However, in this
Oh,
particular translation, it is given in the full form.
oh, okay.
It might be by mistake or maybe intentionally. I'm not quite sure about it.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I'll continue. Purport: as explained in the Bhagavad Gita 7.4, the separated material energy of the personality of Godhead is covered by 8 kinds of material coverings, namely earth, water, fire, air, sky, mind, intelligence, and false ego. All these are emanations from the personality of Godhead as his external energy. These coverings are just like the covering of cloud for the sun. The cloud is a creation of the sun, yet it actually covers the eyes so that one cannot see the sun. The sun cannot be covered by the clouds. The cloud can at utmost extend a few hundreds of miles in the sky, but the sun is far greater than millions of miles. So a 100-mile covering is not competent to cover millions of miles. Therefore, one One of the various energies of the Supreme Personality of Godhead cannot, of course, cover the Lord, but these coverings are created by Him to cover the eyes of the conditioned souls who want to lord it over the material nature. Actually, the conditioned souls are covered by the illusory creative cloud of matter, and the Lord reserves the right of not being exposed to the eyes of the conditioned souls. And because they have no eyes of transcendental vision, and because they cannot see the personality of Godhead, they therefore deny the existence of the God as well as the transcendental form of the Lord. The covering of the gigantic material feature is accepted by such men with poor fund of knowledge, and how it becomes so is explained in the following verse. Text 34. Text 34. Atha param सूक्ष्मतमम् अव्यक्तं निर्वेशनम् अनादि मध्य निधनं नित्यं वन्मनसः param. Synonyms. Attah, therefore, param, transcendental, sukshmatamam, finer than the finest, avyaktam, unmanifested, nirvisheshanam, without material features, anadi, without beginning, madhya, without an intermediate stage, nidhanam, without end, nityam, eternal, vak, words, manasa, of the mind, param, transcendental. Translation. Therefore, beyond this gross manifestation, there is a transcendental manifestation, finer than the finest form, which has no beginning, no intermediate stage, and no end. Therefore, it is beyond the limits of expression or mental speculation, and is distinct from the material conception. Purport. The gross external body of the Supreme is manifested at certain intervals, and thus the external feature or form of the Supreme Personality of Godhead is not the eternal form of the Lord, which has no beginning, no intermediate stage, and no end. Anything which has beginning, interim, and end is called material. The material world is begun from the Lord, and thus the form of the Lord there before the beginning of the material world is certainly transcendental to the finest or the finer material conception. The ether in the material world is considered to be the finest. Finer than ether is mind, intelligence, and false ego. But all the 8 outward coverings are explained as outer coverings of the absolute truth. The absolute truth is therefore beyond the expression and speculation of the material conception. He is certainly transcendental to all material conceptions. This is called Nirvisheshanam. One should not, however, misunderstand Nirvisheshanam as being without any transcendental qualifications. Visheshanam means qualities. Therefore, Nir added with it means that he has no material qualities or variegatedness. This nullifying expression is described in 4 transcendental qualifications, namely unmanifested, transcendental, eternal, and beyond the conception of mind or word. Beyond the limits of word means negation of the material conception, and unless one is transcendentally situated, it is not possible to know the transcendental form of the Lord. Text 35. अमूनि भगवद्रूपे माया ते अनुवर्णिते उभे अपि न गृह्णन्ति maya shishte vipashchita. Synonyms. Amuni, all this, Bhagavat, onto the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Rupe, in the forms, Maya, by me, Te, onto you, he, certainly, Anuvarnite, described respectively, Ubhe, both, Api, also, Na, never, Grihnanti, accepts Maya, external, Srishte, being so manifested, Vipaschita, the learned one who knows. Translation. Both the above forms of the Lord, as just described onto you from the material angle of vision, are not accepted by the pure devotees of the Lord who know him well. Purport. The impersonalists think of the absolute personality of Godhead in 2 different ways. As above mentioned, on the other hand, they worship the Lord in his Vishwarupa or all-pervasive universal form, and on the other, they think of the Lord's unmanifested, undescribable, subtle form. The theories of pantheism and monism are respectively applicable to these two conceptions of the Supreme as gross and subtle, but both of them are rejected by the learned pure devotees of the Lord because they are aware of the factual position. This is very clearly mentioned in the 11th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. Arjuna's experience of the Vishwarupa of the Supreme Lord Sri Krishna. Adrishtapur अदृष्टपूर्वं ऋषितोष्म दृष्ट्वा भयेन च प्रवृहितं मनो मे तदेव मे दृश्यदेव रूपं प्रसीद देवेश जगन्निवास. Bhagavad Gita 11:45. Arjuna, as pure devotee of the Lord, never previously saw the contemplated universal form of the Lord Vishwarupa. But when he did see, his curiosities became satisfied, but he was not happy to see such a form of the Lord because of his attachment as a pure devotee. He was therefore afraid to see the gigantic form of the Lord. He therefore prayed to the Lord to assume his four-handed Narayana, Krishna form, which alone could please him, Arjun. Undoubtedly, the Lord has the supreme potency to exhibit himself in multifarious forms, but the pure devotees of the Lord are interested in his forms as are eternally exhibited in the abode of the Lord, known as the Tripad Vibhuti or kingdom of God. The Lord in the Tripad Vibhuti abode exhibits himself in two forms, either with four hands or with two hands. The Vishwarupa exhibited in the material manifestation has unlimited hands and unlimited dimensions with everything unlimited. The pure devotees of the Lord worship him in his Vaikuntha forms as Narayan or Krishna. Sometimes the same Vaikuntha forms of the Lord are in the material world also by his grace as Sri Rama, Sri Krishna, Sri Narsimhadev, etc. And thus the pure devotees also worship them. Usually the features shown in the material world have no existence in the Vaikuntha planets, and thus they are not accepted by the pure devotees. What the pure devotees worship from the very beginning are eternal forms of the Lord existing in the Vaikuntha planets. The non-devotee impersonalists imagine the material forms of the Lord and ultimately they merge in the impersonal Brahma Jyoti of the Lord. Whereas the pure devotee of the Lord are worshippers of the Lord both in the beginning and also in the perfect stage of salvation eternally. The worship of the pure devotee never stops, whereas the worship of the impersonalist stops after his attainment of salvation, being merged in the impersonal form of the Lord known as Brahmajyoti. Therefore, the pure devotees of the Lord are described here as Vipaschita, or the learned who are in the knowledge of the Lord perfectly. Report. So, any other devotee can continue. Anyone wants to?
Thank you so much, Prabhu.
Thank you so much.
Hare Krishna, Lebang Prabhu Dandar Pranam, Jai Shri Prabhupada.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Please accept humble obeisances of glories to Srila Prabhupada.
Haribo, thank you for joining, Prabhu. You want to read a verse?
I'm still caught up, Prabhu. Still caught up.
Yes,
I have to
Prabhu.
drive to prize giving. Yes, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Lebong Prabhu Dhanot Pranam Jai Prabhupada.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Please accept humble obeisances of glories to Srila Prabhupada.
Yes, bro, you are joining many days later.
Okay,
Sorry,
carry
Prabhu.
that.
Okay, Prabhu.
Shubham Prabhu, you want to read this one verse?
No, bro, sorry.
Yes, Prabhu, okay.
I'll read, no problem. I'll read. I'm here.
Haribo.
Text
Yes, Prabhu.
36. सवाच्य वाचकतया भगवान् ब्रह्मरूपधृक् नामरूपक्रिया धत्ते Sakarma karmakah paraha. Synonyms: saha, he, vachya, by his forms and activities, vacha kataya, by his transcendental qualities and entourage. Bhagavan, the personality of Godhead, Brahma, absolute, Rupadrik, by accepting visible forms, Nama, name, Rupa, form, Kriya, pastimes, Dhatte, accepts, Sakarma, engaged in work, Akarma Kaha, without being affected, Paraha, transcendence. Translation purport by His Divine Grace Sri Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. Translation: He, the personality of Godhead, manifests himself in a transcendental form, being the subject of his transcendental name, quality, pastimes, entourage, and can you just check the pronunciation for that word? I think it's entourage. I'll continue in the meantime. Entourage and transcendental variegatedness. Although he is unaffected, it's entourage. Although he is unaffected by all such activities, he appears to be so engaged. Purport: whenever there is need of material creation, the transcendental personality of Godhead accepts forms in the material world for creation, maintenance, and destruction. And one should be intelligent enough to know his activities in truth without being biased to conclude that he descends in the material world by accepting a form created by material nature. Any form accepted from the material nature has its affection to everything done in the material world. A conditioned soul who accepts the material form for undergoing a certain term of material activities is subjected to the laws of matter. But here in this verse, it is clearly stated that the forms and activities of the Lord, although they appear to be the same as those of another conditioned soul, are supernatural and impossible for the conditioned soul. He, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is always unaffected by such activities. In the Bhagavad Gita, the Lord says, Namam karmani rimpanti na me karma phale spruha iti mam yobhi janati karmanobhirnasa baddhayati. Bhagavad Gita 4:14. The Lord is never affected by the activities which he apparently performs by his different incarnations and personalities, nor does he have any desire to achieve success by fruitive activities. The Lord is full by his different potencies of wealth, strength, fame, beauty, knowledge, and renunciation, and thus he has no reason for physical exertion like the conditioned soul. Therefore, an intelligent person who can distinguish between the transcendental activities of the Lord and those of the conditioned souls also is not bound by the reactions of activities. The Lord, as Vishnu, Brahma, and Shiva, conducts the three modes of material nature. From Vishnu is born Brahma, and from Brahma is born Shiva. Sometimes Brahma is a separated part of Vishnu, and sometimes Brahma is Vishnu himself. Thus, Brahma creates the different species of life all over the universe, which means that the Lord creates the whole manifestation either himself or through the agency of his authorized deputies. Text 31 through 40. Prajapatin प्रजापतीन् मनून् देवान् ऋषीन् पितृगणान् पृथक् पृथक् सिद्धाचारण गन्धर्वान् विद्याधरौ धरासुर गुह्यकान् किन्नार किन्नार किन्नाराप्सरो नागान् सर्पान् किंपुरुषान् नरान् मात्री रक्ष रक्ष रक्- रक्षः पिशाचांश्च प्रेतभूता विनायकान् कूष्माण्डोन्माद वितालान् यादुधानान् गृहान् अपि खगान् मृगान् पशून् वृक्षान् गिरीन् नृप सरीसृपान् द्विविधास् चतुर्विधा येन्ये जलास्थला नभौ कसः कुशला मिश्राः कर्मणां गतयस्त्विमाः. Synonyms: Prajapatin, Brahma and his sons like Daksha and others, Manun, the periodical heads like Vaivasvanta, Manu, etc. Devan like Indra, Chandra, Varuna, etc. Like Bhrigu, Vasishta, etc. Pitriganan, the inhabitants of the Pitalok planets. Trithak, separately. Siddha, the inhabitants of the Siddha planet. Charana, inhabitants of the Charana planet. Gandharvan, inhabitants of the Gandharva planets. Vidyadhara, inhabitants of the same planet. Asura, the atheists. Guhyakan, the inhabitants of the Yaksha planet. Kinnara, the inhabitants of the Kinnara planet. Apsarasaha, the beautiful angels of the Apsara planet. Nagan, the inhabitants of the Nagaloka, serpentine. Sarpan, inhabitants of the Sarpaloka, snakes. Kimpurushan, monkey-shaped inhabitants of the Kumpurusha planet. Naran, inhabitants of the earth. Matri, inhabitants of the Matriloka. Rakshasaha, inhabitants of the demonic planet. Pisachan, inhabitants of the Pisachaloka. Cha, also Preta, inhabitants of the Pretaloka. Bhuta, the evil spirits. Vinayakan, the goblins. Kushmanda, will the wisp. What is it? It doesn't make sense. Kushmanda, what is it meaning? Kushmanda, will or the wisp. Unmada, lunatics. Vetalan, the jinn. Yatu, Yatu Dhanan, a particular type of evil spirit. Grihan, the good and evil stars. Api, also Kagan, the birds. Murgan, the forest animals. Pasun, the household animals. Vrikshan, the ghosts. Green, the mountains. Nripa, oh king. Sarishripan, the reptiles. Vividhaha, the moving and the standing living entities. Chaturvidhaha, living entities born in the embryo, in eggs, in uh, precipitation and in seeds. Ye, others. Anye, all. Jala, water. Sthala, land. Nabhau, kashaha, birds. Kushala, in happiness. Akushalaha, in distress. Mishraha, in mixed. Mishraha, in mixed happiness and distress. Karmanam, according to one's own past deeds. Gatayaha, as a result of tu, but imaham, all of them. Translation: O king, know from me that Brahma and his sons like Daksha and the periodical heads like Vaivasvata, Manu, etc., demigods like Indra, Chandra, Varuna, etc., great sages like Bhrigu, Vyasa, Vasishta, etc., in the inhabitants of the Pitraloka, the inhabitants of the Siddhaloka, the Charanas, Gandharvas, Vidyadharas, Asuras, Yakshas, Kinnaras, angels, the serpentines, the monkey-shaped Kimpurushas, the human beings, the inhabitants of Matriloka, the demons, Pisachas, ghosts, spirits, lunatics, evil spirits, good and evil stars, the goblins, the animals in the forest, the birds, the household animals, the reptiles, the mountains, the moving and standing living entities, the living entities who are born in embryos, in eggs, in precipitation, and in respiration and in seeds, and all others who may be in the water, land, and sky, who may be in happiness or in distress or in mixed happiness and distress according to past deeds, are all created by the Supreme Lord. Purport.
This is really nice verse. Everything is there.
Yeah, the whole creation is explained in detail.
Yes, Prabhu.
Here. Okay. The different types of living entities.
Yes, Prabhu.
Yeah. Purport. The varieties of living entities are mentioned in this list, and with no exception, from the highest topmost planet down to the lowest planet of the universe, all of them in different species of life are created by the Almighty Father Vishnu, and therefore no one is independent of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In the Bhagavad Gita, the Lord therefore claims all living entities as his offsprings in the following verse: Sarva Yonishu Kaunteya Hrutyayah Sambhavanti Yaha Tasam Brahma Mahad Yonir Aham Bija Pradah Pita. Bhagavad Gita 14.4. The material nature is compared to the mother. Although every living being is seen to be coming out of the mother's body, still it is a fact that the mother is not the ultimate cause of such a birth. The father is the ultimate cause of birth. Without the father's seed, no mother can give birth to a child. Therefore, the living entities that are within the innumerable universes in different varieties of forms and position are all born out of the seeds of the Almighty Father, personality of Godhead. And all only to the man with a poor fund of knowledge does it appear that they are born out of the material nature. Being under the material energy of the Supreme Lord, all living entities, beginning from the Brahma down to the insignificant ant, are manifested in different bodies according to their past deeds. The material nature is one of the energies of the Lord, according to Bhagavad Gita 7.4. The material nature is inferior in comparison to the living entities, the superior nature. The superior nature and the inferior nature of the Lord combine together to manifest the whole universal affairs. Some of the living entities are relatively happy and in better conditions of life, whereas others are in distressed conditions of life. But factually, none of them are actually happy in the material condition life. No one can be happy in prison life, although one is a first class prisoner and the other is a third class prisoner. The intelligent person should not try to be promoted from third class prison life to first class prison life, but should try to be released from the prison altogether. One may be promoted to first class prisoner, but the same first class prisoner is again degraded to a third class prisoner in the next term. One should try to be free from prison life and go back to home, back to Godhead. That is the real goal for all types of living entities.
Prabhu. Okay, last one. If it's short. Yes, Prabhu.
In fact, it can be said in another way as well. Those who are happy are literally bound by the golden shackles, whereas those who are really in distress are said to be bound by the iron shackles. So that means both are actually bound, but the material used to bind them is different, totally
Yes,
different.
Prabhu. Yeah, nice analogy.
Text 41. Sattvam rajastama iti तिस्रः सुरनृणारकाः तत्रापि एकैकशो राजन् भिद्यन्ते गतयस् त्रिधा यदैक यदैकैकतरो अन्याभ्ययां स्वभाव उपहन्यते. Synonyms: Sattvam, the mode of goodness; Rajaha, the mode of passion; Tamaha, the mode of darkness; Iti, thus; Tisraha, trio; trio. Okay, Sura, demigod, human being, Nara Kaha, one who is suffering hellish conditions. Tatra api, even there, Ekaika Saha, another Rajan, O king, Vidhyante, divide into Gatayaha, movements, Tridha, three, Yada, at that time, Ekaika Taraha, one in relation with another, Anyabhyam, from the other, Swabhavaha, habit, Upahanyate, develops. Translation: according to the different modes of material nature, the mode of goodness, the mode of passion, and the mode of darkness, there are different living creatures who are known as demigods, human beings, and hellish living entities walking. Even a particular mode of nature being mixed with the other two is divided into three, and thus each kind of living creature is influenced by the other modes and acquires its habits also. Report. Purport. The living entities individually are being conducted by a particular mode of nature, but at the same time, there is every chance of being influenced by the other two. Generally, all conditioned souls in the material engagement are influenced by the mode of passion because every one of them is trying to lord it over the material nature to fulfill individual desire. But in spite of the individual mode of passion, there is always the chance of being influenced by other modes of nature by association. If one is in good association, he can develop the modes of goodness, and if he is in bad association, he may develop the modes of darkness and or ignorance. Nothing is stereotyped stereotype. One can change his habit by good or bad association, and one has to become intelligent enough to discriminate between good and bad. The best association is the service of the devotees of the Lord, and by that association, one can become the highest qualified man by the grace of pure devotees of the Lord. As we have already seen in the life of Srila Narada Muni, he became the topmost devotee of the Lord simply by the association of pure devotees of the Lord. By birth, he was the son of a maid servant and had no knowledge of his father and no academic education, even of the lowest status. But simply by associating with the devotees and by eating the remnants of their foodstuff, he gradually developed the transcendental qualities of the devotees. By such association, his taste for chanting and hearing the transcendental glories of the Lord became prominent, and because the glories of the Lord are non different from the Lord, he got direct association with the Lord by means of sound representation. Similarly, there is the life of Ajamila, sixth canto, who was the son of a Brahmana and was educated and trained properly in the discharge of the duties of a Brahmana. But in spite of all this, because he contacted the bad association of a prostitute, was put into the path of the lowest quality of Chandala or the last position of human beings. Therefore, the Bhagavatam recommends always the association of the Mahat or the great soul for opening the gate of salvation. And to associate with persons engaged in lording it over the material world means to enter into the darkest reason of hell. One should try to raise himself by the association of the great soul, and that is the way of perfection of life. Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam ki jai. Prabhupada ki jai.
Jai. Jai. Thank you so much, Prabhu.
Thank you. How many more verses are left in this chapter? I think this is the last chapter of the canto. Yeah, I think
Oh,
51.
yes, Prabhu.
I think 51. 51. I saw the count
Yeah.
yesterday. Maybe 51. Look at the count.
Yes, Prabhu. Tomorrow we will finish it actually.
Hmm.
Where were we? Did I go past it? Here, 42.
Yeah.
Okay, now we go to six Astakam prayers.
Hmm.
Cheto darpanamarjanam bhavamahadavagninirvapanam Shreyah kairava chandrika vitaranam vidyavadu jivanam Anantam buddhivardhanam pratipadam purnamritasvadanam Sarvatma snapanam param vijayate Sri Krishna Sankirtanam
कामना मकारी बहुधा निज सर्वशक्तेश तत्रार्पिता नियमिता स्मरणेन कालः एतादृशी तव कृपा भगवन् ममापि दुर्दैव ईदृशं इहाजनि नानुरागः
Trinaraphi Sunichena Taro Api Sahishnuna Amanina Manadina Kirtaniya Sada Hari.
न धनं न जनं न सुन्दरीं कवितां वा जगदीश कामये मम जन्मनि जन्मनेश्वरे भवतात् भक्तिरहेतुके त्वयि
Ainanda Tanuja Kinkaram Patitam Mam Vishame Bhavam Buddho Kripaya Dvavapada Pankaja Stita Dole Satrisham Vichintaya.
नयनं गलदश्रुधारया वदनं गद्गद हृदया गिरा पुलकैर्निचितं वपुः कदा तव नाम ग्रहणे भविष्यसि
Yugaitam Nimishena Chakshusha Pravishaitam Shunyaitam Jagat Sarvam Govinda Virahe Name.
आश्लिष्य वा पादरतान् पिनष्टु माम् अदर्शनां मर्महतां करोतु वा यथा तथा वा विदधातु लम्पटो मत्प्राणनाथस्तु स एव नापरः
Haribo. Glory to the Sri Krishna Sankirtan, which cleanses the heart of all the dust accumulated for years and extinguishes the fire of conditional life of repeated birth and death. The Sankirtan movement is the prime benediction for humanity at large because it spreads the rays of the benediction moon. It is the life of all transcendental knowledge. It increases the ocean of transcendental bliss and it enables us to fully taste the nectar for which we are always anxious.
O my Lord, your holy name alone can render all benedictions to living beings, and thus you have hundreds and millions of names like Krishna and Govinda. In these transcendental names, you have invested all your transcendental energies. There are not even hard and fast rules for chanting these names. O my Lord, out of kindness, you enable us to easily approach you by chanting your holy names, but I am so unfortunate that I have no attraction for them.
One should chant the holy name of the Lord in a humble state of mind, thinking oneself lower than the straw in the street. One should be more tolerant than a tree. Devoid of all sense of false prestige, and ready to offer all respect to others. In such a state of mind, one can chant the holy name of the Lord constantly.
Almighty Lord, I have no desire to accumulate wealth, nor do I desire beautiful women, nor do I want any number of followers. I only want your causeless devotional service birth after birth. O son of Maharaj Nanda Krishna, I am your eternal savior, yet somehow or other I have fallen into the ocean of birth and death. Please pick me up from this ocean of death and place me as one of the atoms of your lotus feet. Oh my Lord, when will my eyes be decorated with tears of love flowing constantly when I chant your holy name? When will my voice choke up, and when will the hairs of my body stand on end at the recitation of your name?
Oh Govinda, feeling your separation, I am considering a moment to be like 12 years or more. Tears are flowing from my eyes like torrents of rain, and I am feeling all vacant in the world in your absence. I know
I
no
know
one but Krishna as my Lord, and he shall remain so even if he handles me roughly in his embrace and makes me broken-hearted by not being present before me. He is completely free to do anything and everything, for he is always my worshipful Lord unconditionally. Sikshastakam ki jai,
Jai,
Chaitanya Mahaprabhu
Jai,
ki jai.
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 Who wants to read this?
बहु जन्म करे यदि श्रवण कीर्तन तबु तन पाए कृष्ण पदे प्रेम धन If one is infested with the 10 offenses in the chanting of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, despite his endeavor to chant the holy name for many births, he will not get the love of Godhead. That is the ultimate goal of this chanting. The 10 offenses against the chanting of the holy name are as follows. First, to blaspheme the devotees who have dedicated their lives for propagating the holy name of the Lord.
Second offense, to consider the names of demigods like Lord Shiva or Lord Brahma to be equal to or independent of the names of the Lord Vishnu.
Third offense is to disobey the orders of the spiritual master.
Fourth offense, to blaspheme the Vedic literatures or literatures in preference of the Vedic version.
Fifth offense is to consider the glories of chanting Hare Krishna to be imagination.
Sixth offense, to give some interpretation on the holy name of the Lord.
Eighth offense is to consider the chanting of Hare Krishna one of the auspicious ritualistic activities offered in the Vedas as fruitive activity is Karma Kanda.
Ninth offense, to instruct the faithless persons about the glories of the holy name.
10th offense is to not to have complete faith in the chanting of the holy names and to maintain material attachments even after understanding so many instructions on this matter. It is also an offense. Come down, bro. It is also an offense to be inattentive while chanting. Every devotee who claims to be a Vaishnava must guard against these offenses in order to quickly achieve the desired success, Krishna Prema.
They are super or respectful obeisances unto all the Vaishnava devotees of the Lord. They can fulfill the desires of everyone, just like desire trees, and they're full of compassion for the fallen conditioned souls. Vancha
Kalpatarubhyascha Kripasindubhyeva
Evacha
Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha.
Namo Namaha. Nanda Gaudiya Vaishnavinda ki jai, Shri
Jai.
Prabhupada ki jai, Nitai Gaura
Jai.
Premanande. Hari Hari Bol.
Hari Hari Bol.
Jai Shri Prabhupada. Thank you so much, Prabhu, for your association.
So,
Thank you so
Prabhu,
much.
1 minute, please.
Yes, Prabhu.
Praveen